This is the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom show, the Wake Up Call on WCOM LP, Chapel Hill and Carver, 103.5 on your FM dial, or live streaming at WCOMFM.org. You can also watch the show on the People's Channel after week's delay on Thursday night at 10 p.m., Friday morning at 6 a.m., or Tuesday at noon. The show will also be available on our YouTube channel, Wilf Wake Up Call. I'm Iris Schwinzer here with our hosts, Glory Hoyt and Emily are here on the camera today. Our special guest is Gary Richards.
Thanks, Iris. We're glad to be here, and we're happy to say this is a beautiful Wednesday that is, the temperature's just right. It's really lovely, unlike the previous Wednesday that we had a fan running here, and we'd love some feedback how much you could hear it, because it just sort of messed up some of our sound a bit. But anyhow, we're here to talk about the climate, and Gary Richards is here to talk to us about his work on trying to help with that issue of our climate crisis. And Gary, you live not too far from this radio station, I understand.
That's correct. My wife and I walked down here this afternoon. I have to say I don't quite agree with you about the temperature. I'm from upstate New York, and if it were 5 or so degrees cooler, I'd be more comfortable.
Well, you know, I would too, because like I told you earlier, I lived in the Syracuse area for many years, but I'm trying to be very positive because I've been complaining all over the place about the very high temperatures. Today, yes, it was even 5 degrees. This morning at 7:30, it was just right.
Okay,
It was 65, I think, when I went out for a walk.
that'd be perfect.
Yes, it would be perfect. So we're here and trying to enjoy it as much as we can, and it is beautiful. And downtown Carrboro is one of our favorite places to be, and this radio station, WCOM, is one of our favorite places to be. So we're going to be talking about your activist work about the climate, and it's focused right now on coal. And so you're with, I think, along with the Choke Group, maybe?
I'm with the Climate Reality Project,
The Climate Reality.
right, the Al Gore Group.
Oh, great.
And I was trained in Atlanta this past March, along with roughly 2,300 other people. And one of the people who was there was Reverend Barber, who I had never gotten to hear speak before, and I was, as you can imagine, amazingly impressed with that man. And
Oh, it was your first time to hear Reverend Barber?
it was, yes.
Where was this at?
It was in Atlanta, Georgia. And he was there, as was his son. So it was quite an impressive array of people.
And this was a conference put on by Al Gore?
Yeah, by the Climate Reality Project.
So, okay. So this was a huge conference.
Yes, 2,300 people.
And was that also training to be activists?
Yes, it was 3 days of training. You had to apply to be accepted, and then pay your own way to there and back, and for hotel and so forth. But they fed us, and we had lots of very good speakers, breakout groups, things like that. That's what got me started in this.
Wow. So that is what, I think I vaguely remember a few of our members going. I bet Lib Hutchby, I don't know if you met any Wilf people or local people while you were there.
I wasn't aware of the name of your group until very recently,
Yeah,
so I don't
yeah.
believe so.
Okay. Well, good for you. So that was last spring, March, I think?
Right, yes.
Okay, so that was the first time. How long have you been living in this area?
We have been living here full-time 3 years, and we came down for winters 2 years prior to that. So we're newbies.
The winter was our most appealing time for you then, huh?
Yes, yeah, we came here because we have a son and his family are here, so we have 2 granddaughters that live here. They're the magnet.
That's a big impetus for many people to connect with family, and this is a growing area. So,
Right.
Yeah, with the Research Triangle of the university and Duke, et cetera, yeah. So how do you like it here?
We like it very much, and like you, downtown Carrboro is one of our favorite places to be.
Yeah.
We love that we can walk to so many restaurants, and my wife loves yoga, And she can walk to yoga, and the art center is right next door here, of course, so we're quite pleased that we made this decision to come here.
Yeah, good decision. And even though the summers are sometimes difficult, the winters in upstate New York were pretty miserable. I mean, I do not have a lot of fond memories of that, raising babies with that cold weather and getting all the little hands in the mittens and, you know, it was tough. And also just that it was so dark. I remember having the electric light
Right,
on day
yes.
after day. Yeah. So I think I read an article after I came down here in Scientific American. They were just beginning to connect the light and
Oh,
depression,
yes.
or the absence of light with depression. But anyhow, so you're here, and that was the beginning of your activism in terms of climate, although
It was.
you said you'd been protesting earlier with the Vietnam War.
Yes, I said I was at the University of Buffalo as an undergraduate, and in the spring of 1970, there were a lot of demonstrations on the UB campus. I came from a very small town, led a very kind of a sheltered upbringing, and was unaware of a lot of things. Well, I guess many of us were at that age.
Yeah.
But I became involved in protesting the Vietnam War at that time. And in 1969, I was unfortunate enough to get a low draft number. So I then tried the conscientious objector route to avoid going in the Army. And when I failed at that, then I refused induction in 1972. So that was my beginning of protesting.
Wow. So even though you were in college, they were going to try to get you in the service?
Yes, the draft lottery was in December of '69, and it applied to started in 1970, and student deferments went out the window at that point.
Oh, I didn't remember that part of it. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
So you started protesting. Did you have to go?
I didn't have to go. I had the wheels of justice, if you want to call them that, turned very slowly, so I refused in '72 and had a trial date set, and then it was reset for a later time period, and essentially the draft was winding down in 1973, so the government made a plea bargain deal with me. If I would put my name back in the draft list, then they would drop the charges, and pretty much then it all went away. So since I was fortunate enough to have a couple of $100 for an attorney, I didn't pay any penalty in terms of.
Wow. That was very lucky.
It was.
Very, very lucky. Yeah, so that was the beginning of starting to look more carefully at things that
Right.
when they don't affect you, we don't pay as much
Right.
attention to.
Yes, that's of course true. And the next thing was, of course, Kent State was that spring.
Yes.
And that is the first, I don't want to call it a violent protest, because I wasn't out there throwing rocks or anything like that, but that was a time that I did feel threatened as what had been a
So you were
privileged
there,
white
you
boy.
went to the Kent,
Oh, no, the day after Kent State on the UB campus, we had a big protest. We're out in the main street to shut down the street and things of that nature.
mm-hmm.
And the campus ended up being shut down completely, so we didn't have to take finals. That was a good thing.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to UNC as an undergraduate at the time, as an older person, and that was a big decision because the whole campus didn't actually shut down. So I went to each of my teachers and explained why felt I couldn't go to class, and so that because I love the university, but I just felt that war was so totally, especially when I found out about napalm, that did it
right,
for me.
right.
Yeah.
Agent Orange, one of the things.
Yeah. So that was when you were young. You got your
Right.
first taste of protesting
Right.
what you saw as injustice and what
Yes.
was wrong, morally wrong.
Right.
Good for you. And so I hope that continued on.
It did. I became a parent and had a small business, and I kind of wasn't involved in things for quite some time. And now, once I don't have the family or a business, so I have time to devote to causes again, and this I feel is a very important one.
Yes, this is, I think, one of the most important ones in our lifetime.
Right.
It really is. So how did you hear about the conference in Atlanta?
Well, it was, I had signed up with Reverend Barber's Poor People's Campaign, and they sent me an email, I believe, and I thought, well, this could be good, I'll try
Yeah,
this. I didn't
yeah.
expect to be accepted. I had no idea the scope or the size of it, and I thought, we could, we'll try that and see if I get accepted, and I was. And then when I got back, I wanted to find something really local to
Yeah.
concentrate on, and I have two things I've been working on.
Okay, well, let's tell us about that.
Okay, well, the coal plant, which we'll get back to, but I live in the Greenbridge condominium building, and when I came back, I made a proposal to the board that had 4 parts. One was solar panels on one of the towers, electric vehicle charging stations in the basement, motion sensor lighting in the corridors, because a lot of the lights are on all the time, and a voluntary composting program. So,
Good for you.
just this week, I received what I think is a go-ahead that we're gonna go ahead and do the solar panels. So I'm very excited about that. It's not gonna be a huge savings, either in money for us or coal or the equivalent for the climate, but it's a good start for us anyway.
Well, the savings aren't up front; they come after.
Right.
Because the upfront investment is what's really expensive.
Well, there's a company in town here that sets up a leasing program, so we won't have any out-of-pocket expense at all.
There is.
Yep, we're gonna have a 10-year lease. Should I say who they are, or give them a plug?
Yeah, say who they are.
Okay, Eagle Solar and Light Company is the only one in North Carolina that currently can lease solar panels.
Because that's what's so necessary, because for many people would love to have it, but, the upfront cost can be around $10,000.
Right,
And for most people, that's out of the question for many people.
right.
So that is very interesting, that's being written down.
I can see that, everybody's
Yeah,
writing down the names.
everybody's gonna spread the word, yeah. No, we're happy to spread the word about that,
Okay.
yeah. So that, good for you where you live, because composting is one of my big things that I've been trying to push and encourage. I live in a senior apartment complex, and I'm not sure if we could get it going there, but the town, has a voluntary where you
Yeah.
can bring it to the farmer's market or to
Right.
Eubank, so I'm trying to encourage people to get started, at least getting that in their mind and getting,
Right.
I've been getting buckets for a couple of neighbors, they're just on sale again now for $5, everybody, if you want a composting bucket at the farmer's market, and they're tight seal, they're really good. Okay, so that was one project right
Right.
where you're living
Yeah.
because that's, a lot of times people wanna go out and save the world somewhere else and they don't think about right their own space or their own community. So that's really great. So then the second project,
Second project was the UNC coal plant, which
Yeah.
happens to be just about a block away from where we live.
yeah,
And I have 2 granddaughters who go to school at Frank Porter Graham Elementary School, which is just down the hill from the coal plant.
yeah.
So we're
And I live
all-
right around the
do
corner
you?
on Merritt Mill.
Oh, okay. So we're all directly affected by that coal plant. And the more I learned about it, the more astonished I became that it's still there. It's just crazy.
So did you find out anything about the history of
Well-
UNC and coal?
Well, I found out that plant's been there since 1940. And I've had a couple of people stop by during our protests to sign our petition and tell me that they'd been there in that neighborhood, raised their families and so forth in that neighborhood. And this becomes an environmental justice issue too. The reason that thing was built where it was, when it was, course, is because both of the communities, the North Side and the Tintov, I believe that's the two names, were communities of color. So it was an easy place for them to put it.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely true. And did you find out that I'm not sure what year, but a promise had been made?
I did, yes. I read some articles in the Daily Tar Heel, and they said that at one point, I guess about 2 chancellors back,
Mm-hmm.
they agreed to close it by 2020, or at least go away from using coal.
Mhm.
They were talking about using alternate fuels, and since then they backed away from that.
Yeah, that's what surprised me when I heard that, because you don't keep up with every little thing, so I knew that it had been a commitment to stop using coal, so you kind of cross that off your list.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's gonna happen. And somehow I missed that had changed. And so when I heard that some Wolf people and others were protesting, I was so surprised when they informed me that the UNC had backed off from the
Right.
commitment and decided not to honor it.
Yeah,
It was gonna be too much trouble or
sounds
something.
like it. Too much trouble, too expensive.
Yeah, whatever the
So,
excuses
Yeah,
were.
they're prioritizing their bottom line over the health of the community.
Yeah, and since bad air does not just stay on Merritt Mill Road or by the Frank Porter Graham School, it doesn't just stay there. Bad air, particles and whatever is in the smoke and particles travels around, so
That's
it
right.
really affects all of us. And the universities,
That's right, the
all
people
this.
who attend school there and work there are
Yeah.
subject to that too.
Yeah, so, and I had heard, and have you heard that we're the only public university that still uses coal?
The only university in the state of North Carolina.
Oh, in
It's
the
true.
state of
Yes.
North Carolina? Okay, so that's not a very good, you don't get a gold star for
No,
that.
no, that's not a club you want to be a member of.
No, it's not.
You would think that a leading university like this would want to be a leader in protecting the climate and developing solutions to protect the climate, and things of that nature, rather than being stuck with this old 18th century technology here.
Yeah, so how did you first find out about it?
I can't remember how I first found out about it. I think we just drove by it or something,
So
or
one of the-
walked by it.
So
and
some
it's
of
like,
those coal
wow,
cars going.
yeah, oh yes, certainly. We have seen the coal cars coming through the middle of Carborough.
Yeah.
Yes, that probably is how we first learned about it.
Yeah, so there's protests going on.
Every Friday morning from 8 to 10, I walk down there and protest. And I've gotten as many as 8 people. I've collected over 100 signatures now on my petition, the petition to get it closed. Just a nice, quiet, nonviolent protest. We stand out of the way and just hold up our signs. People go by on their bicycles and ring their bells, and people honk their horns, and the reaction is, I would say, 95% at least positive.
Well, I had thought about going, number one, I didn't know where to park my car. I'm just too old even to walk up that street. It's
Huh.
pretty broken, the sidewalk, and it's a hill going uphill. And the other thing is, it's been so hot.
Yes.
So even if,
Yeah,
but how long has this protest been going on for?
10 weeks so far. We started on May 17th. And you mentioned hot. For part of the time, me and one of the other ladies who was there were wearing gas masks to make ourselves look a little more, impactful, but it's been definitely too hot for gas masks.
So I know Larry Chadburn, who's one of our Wilf members. I think he's been going.
Yes, he's been coming almost from the beginning, I'd say. And Larry's very good at approaching people who go by on the street and say, "Good morning, would you like to sign our petition?" So I'm glad that Larry's there. He's been very loyal and hasn't missed a week, I don't think.
Oh, good for him. And that's good organizing, not just let people walk by, but to get talking to them Yeah, and
Right.
getting them signing petitions and finding out more about it. Do you have signs when you do it?
Oh, yes, yeah, I got a couple of signs that I had made at Staples, and then some that we've just drawn up, although I'm far from an artist. We just try to keep it a very simple message, no coal, or our goal is no coal, or something like that. So,
Yeah, because when people are driving by, so many times, and I think we're all guilty of it with our signs, sometimes they're just not that easy to read unless you
Right.
stand right there. So I think the simpler and the big letters the better,
Yeah.
because I'm sure a lot of cars go by there.
Yes, cars and bikes, and some people walking too.
Yeah, yeah. That was very clever with the gas mask, though. Anything you can do to get some attention.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Still nobody from the television, any of the TV stations has stopped by though. Keep
Have-
hoping for that.
Have you called them and asked them?
I haven't. I've been remiss in that. I did hand out cards at another demonstration where the Spectrum News was there and WRAL, but I guess they haven't had a slow enough news day yet to bother to come and
Yeah.
see us.
Yeah, sometimes for one thing, I know with our newspapers, they're very short staffed.
Oh, okay,
Because as you probably know, newspapers are losing business
right.
as we sit here. I know the News and Observer's gotten smaller and smaller, and I'd love to have a newspaper right in my hand, but they're having hard times.
Oh, that's true.
So one thing I think that can help is to write it up yourself and get a picture and bring it to them,
Okay,
to think about that. Well, good for you, and I think there's another, isn't it the Choke Group is,
yes. That's Chapel Hill, I can't remember the name
I
of
can't do that.
what it means exactly, but they're part of the.
Oh, Chapel Hill Organization, that's what Chapel Hill Organization for Clean Energy, Choke.
Joke, right.
So that's very clever because
It
you
is.
choke on the fumes
Right.
and the smoke. Yeah, Chapel Hill Organization for Clean Energy, thank you. And it's a new chapter of BREDL, which is the Blue Ridge, oh, you're so helpful, Environmental Defense League.
Yes,
And that's a pretty famous one.
It is,
Blue
yeah.
Ridge one. So they formed, that was very smart, they formed this new group and got to be a chapter of the Blue Ridge Environmental Defense League. And they're concerned with the pollution of the UNC coal burning power plant on Cameron Avenue. The goal is non-combustible source of energy. Well, thank you for that. So you started up all by yourself and then kind of joined forces with
right. With the Center for Biological Diversity and Ignite NC.
So that's another one.
Right.
So, okay. So there's two of you. Center for Biological.
So many groups, you go crazy trying to keep track of them all.
Logical, yeah, okay, so that's, the Center for Biological Diversity, is that connected with Al Gore too?
Not that I'm aware of, no,
Oh. That's another one.
yeah.
So we've been talking, so we've been talking about Al Group's Climate Reality,
Right,
and then the Center for Biological Diversity.
right. There's the Dogwood Alliance, NC Warren, and the
Oh, you know
Sierra
that
Club.
NC Warren, yeah.
Yeah, there's so many groups involved in this, either directly or indirectly.
Yeah, so I'm sure there's a lot of same people belong to
More than one group,
more
yes.
than one group,
Yeah.
yeah. So at some point, 10 weeks is kind of still a new thing. I'm hoping when the students come back, are y'all gonna make an effort to get the students organized?
Yes, I'd like to. Yeah, there is a Climate Reality chapter on campus, and I believe also a Sierra Club chapter. The Sierra Club was involved in the original negotiations, if you want to call that, back in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I would like to get them involved, and I need to walk all the way across the street from my house to the Jackson Center and try to get the people from the North Side neighborhood to participate as well. I think that would be good. The more groups we have, the better it would be.
Yeah, And I think maybe when the weather's cooler that you can get more people out there. It's pretty hard when it's been so hot. I think we're about to take a station break.
This is Will's Wake Up Call on WCOM LP, Chapel Hill and Carver, 103.5 FM. You can stream us live at WCOMFM.org.
Okay, does anybody have any announcements? Oh, yes, okay, I didn't see that, I was gonna announce that too. Okay, so we've been talking about CHOKE, the Chapel Hill Organization for Clean Energy. They are having their monthly meeting today at the Chapel Hill Library from 6 to 8 p.m. So anybody is listening, or Gary, I don't know if you and Jerry feel up for it, but at the Chapel Hill Library, they're gonna be meeting today. And so they've been meeting each month. The last meeting was at my house. And I think somebody came down from the Brito, from the Blue Ridge. One of their organizers came to the meeting. So, yeah, people are really paying attention finally.
Finally, yes.
Yeah, even though I think it's improved a little, the media is still not doing the best job. In fact, I just heard a report, I think on Amy Goodman or somewhere, that actually in last year, some of the coverage was less than the year before.
Really? Wow.
Which surprised me, because I think with especially with the young people, so you're hoping to be doing some organizing with students when?
Yes, when they get back in the fall.
When they get back in the
I
fall.
started this probably at the worst possible time, but it just seemed like now was better than later. But,
Well, and you learn along the way, so yeah, and when you're hot to do or really passionate to do something, if you wait too long, that can dissipate.
It can, that's right.
And other things. So what are some things you think you're learning as you're going along?
Well, I'm learning more about the scale of this, the amount of coal that they burn. In the wintertime, I learned that they burn 600 tons of coal a day in the wintertime, which was like, how could that possibly be?
What?
Yes, one of those coal trains that comes through typically has 6 cars, 100 tons apiece. I looked this up, and so in the wintertime, there's one of those going by every day. So I can't find out exactly where the coal comes from. The university says that it comes from a place where they aren't blowing the tops off mountains, so it's relatively, clean. I haven't been able to find out where the coal ash goes. I don't know how much ash 600 tons of coal a day in the wintertime produces, so I don't know where that goes. But there's a disposal problem for that, obviously, so it's dirty from the beginning of the process
They will
till
make
the end.
if you ask them, because that's very interesting. Like 600 tons a day is a shocking.
Isn't it? Yeah.
That I knew I'd see those coal things coming in, but I just assumed that was like weekly or.
Well, I've been trying to keep track. Only
Good for
once
you.
in the 10 weeks that we've been sitting there has a train come by on a Friday. But the last 2 Mondays, right, Jer? Last 2 Mondays, we've seen him come by with 6 cars. So that's what I'm basing that on.
And each car holds how much?
100 tons is what I said,
Oh,
or
okay.
what I heard, which is, it's like mind-boggling that it could be that much.
So that if it just comes once a week, that would be 600 tons a week.
At this time of year, yes, but in the wintertime,
Oh, in the wintertime.
in wintertime, it's every day.
Oh,
Okay, so-
yes.
But they burn more than coal.
They do burn more than coal, yes. About 72% of the, what they use is coal, and the other, whatever, I guess that's 28% is primarily fracked natural gas, I guess.
Torrefied wood.
Well, they have been trying to do that. That's in 2010, that's what they thought they were gonna change to, but they ran into a problem of finding enough of that wood. But that wood, as you probably know, in North Carolina now, there's More and more trees are being taken down, and the trees are being changed into wood pulp, which is being sent to Europe to be burned. And the Europeans are trying to claim that that's renewable energy, but they're still burning stuff, and they're still creating carbon emissions. So it's really not, it's certainly not clean energy.
So it's on the one hand, taking the trees down, which helps
Right.
store carbon
Right.
and help provide shade and all kinds of good things, so we don't need as much for air conditioning, and they help us in many ways. And then then the power, the planes or trains or
I assume it goes
boats
by
to
ship,
take it
yeah.
to Europe by ship, that takes power, and then they burn it,
Right.
so. And that's horrible.
It is.
I didn't know that we were sending that over, our trees over to Europe. Oh my God. So then, and then they also use sometimes some wood, and then they use natural gas, which
Right.
has its own problems
Does,
with
yes,
methane.
right.
Yeah.
Right, so it's still not clean.
No, it's still not clean, even
Right.
though it's being, well, but when you call them on it, they say, no, we know it's not exactly clean, but it's better than coal, and it's a transition fuel
Right.
until we get, wind and solar and
Right.
other things up. So in the winter, it would be the 600 tons a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. That, and then you're right, and they won't answer, do you call and ask them
I
where the coal ash
haven't
goes?
spoken with them, no. I've been trying to find
So
the
it's
information online myself.
Online,
Right. There's a man I know on campus, their sustainability manager, Brad Ives, and I've seen him quoted lots of times, and I know people who have heard him speak. He spoke at the Chapel Hill Town Council, I guess, in February, about their permit renewal process that they're going through now.
About their what?
They have to get a new permit to continue to operate the plant. And that's one of the goals of the Center for Biological Diversity, is to get public hearings and public comment before that permit is just reissued. They applied again in, I think it was March of 2018, and there's supposed to be an 18-month renewal process, which we're coming up on the end of pretty quickly, and nobody said anything, to my knowledge, about what's gonna happen.
So they have to get the permit from the town of Chapel Hill,
From the state of North Carolina,
of the state.
right. And the permit that they currently have allows them to emit a lot more pollutants, 4 to 6 times more pollution than the EPA generally allows. So this is they try to say it's cleaner than it was, but it's still dirty. They emit carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrous oxide, all kinds of small particulates into the air. All of those things, I'm sure, as you know, cause asthma, lung disease, heart disease, premature death. So they're prioritizing their bottom line over the health and well-being of this community. And trying to save a few bucks, or I'm sure it's much more than a few bucks in their defense, but there has to be a better way.
There has to be, and if people can start getting solar on their own home, surely the university can start investing. I mean, they're gonna be forced to at some point, and they would be so much better to be a model showing the way. What about Duke? What is Duke using for?
I don't know what Duke is doing. Duke, of course, is a private institution, so they have a little more, maybe a little less accountability, I would think, than the University of North Carolina ought to have to people who live here in
But
Chapel
they're not
Hill.
burning coal, because this is supposed to be the only university in the
Right,
state that
right.
burns coal.
Yeah,
So they may be using natural gas,
Yeah,
but not
couldn't
coal.
say.
Yeah. Oh, the more you look at the ramifications, but I'd be particularly interested though in the coal ash, because that's been a big issue
yes,
in
I
the
know it
state.
has, right.
You've been here long enough to hear about, Duke Energy and the whole coal ash
Yes, yeah,
problem from them. And that's still an ongoing struggle,
right,
about how to get that back out of those pits, or
Or
with
they
this
put it,
leaching
yeah.
into the groundwater. And how to do that without, the whole process is terrifying.
Yes,
You know, because whatever they do, there's gonna be some
right,
escaping of some of those
sure.
particles and fumes and whatever.
Right. Well, as the climate continues to warm, we're gonna continue to have, we're gonna have more of these extreme weather events, which is gonna cause a lot of those ponds or pits or whatever they call them to overflow. And we were here in 2014, there was one of those things that broke someplace in the eastern part of the state, if I recall correctly. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that'll happen more. It's just not a matter of if, but when, I would think.
Yeah, where was it? You,
On the Dan River.
yeah, the Dan River. Yeah, no, that was terrible, and there was some, another, it wasn't Duke, I think it was some governmental thing in Virginia someplace a few years earlier, I don't remember where, but yeah, that's an accident waiting to
Right.
happen.
Right,
You know, just like we have a problem with the pig waste lagoons.
oh, yes,
Overflowing. I mean, we have been such a sloppy group, human beings,
Mm,
in how we've
sure.
devised our civilizations, you know, putting all our mess in our rivers, you know, just wasting and throwing our waste anywhere. We're really a dirty group.
we are, yes.
A dirty group, we really are. And it's hard to change things. But
Yes, one of the things that Al Gore's group is about is, he's a very optimistic man, and he's just 100% certain that his thing goes, must we, can we, will we make the changes that are necessary? And I'm certainly on board with the first two. We must and we can, but whether we will or not, I think is unfortunately still up in the air. So,
And I guess we all hope that as people understand better, they will get behind it more.
yeah,
Because I think a lot of times you just kind of go along with what is, and if change means anything that seems threatening, even if it's not, people
right,
get their backs up. But one of the things there's going to be a push, I think, for The Nation magazine with Columbia School of Journalism, I think, to really focus on getting better media coverage. They feel that it's been so slack and so bad in terms of some saying, oh, it's just, some say this and some say that, as though it's equivalent, yes or no, whether we
Right.
have climate change, but really get behind
uh-huh.
some really scientific information coming out in a way that people can understand it and grasp it.
Right,
And I think an underused resource, I think people, the one scientist I was just reading that people really like is their the weather forecaster
Right,
on
right.
their different stations, and they develop quite a fondness or respect for them. And I think that if they could start doing some good training, send them to Al Gore for
yeah,
a good training session. Now that could make it, people will really pay attention to that. So you're just kind of new to this, and already you're getting very involved with your boots on the ground, so they say, not
Yes,
just
yeah.
talking about it.
right. Trying. One of the things that Al Gore's group is about is education, and that's, as you say, that's some people don't know what's up, and one of the things that he trained us to do is to go to local civic organizations and give a talk that's called Truth in 10. That's supposed to be a 10-minute slide show, but I don't think anybody else that I've ever seen can talk as fast as Al Gore can. So he can do it in 10 minutes, but it would take me, I'm sure, at least a half an hour. But
that's
if there are any
still
groups around
yeah.
here who would like to have me come and do the slideshow, I certainly would be happy to do that.
Yeah, that would be good, like the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, Chamber of Commerce, little church groups, neighborhood groups,
Yeah.
Whatever. Your group there, your women's peace group,
Yeah.
anybody.
Well, we have your name, we have your number,
You
and
know where to find me.
we meet once a month, and I'll I'm on the steering committee, and I'll certainly put that forward.
Great.
That would be great to have you come. And so education, so do you have a slideshow too?
I do, yes. I have the 10-minute version of the slideshow as well as a whole big library one, which I don't think he got through it in 3 days that we were there for the training, so nobody could watch that one. But you can also customize, well, the training I went to was specifically about the Southeast since it was in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
So there were people from the coast where the pipeline is going through, people from Louisiana who had been had their lands polluted by oil companies there in Louisiana.
Oh,
so it was
boy.
fairly local, but still I wanted to get a slide that showed the flooded playground at Frank Porter Graham and the whatever the name of the creek is that goes through there.
Is that Bowling Creek?
Yes, Bowling Creek, where it
Morgan
was
Creek.
like
It's
hmm?
what?
Morgan Creek.
Morgan Creek, that's right, where it was what, it must have been 10 feet deep here this past spring. So those kinds of things aren't coincidence, you know, it's all connected.
Yeah, so this slideshow was one that you had made about local stuff.
Well, no, it's one that Al Gore made, and I need to put some
But are you gonna
further
add?
customize, add those things, because it might have pictures of the Mississippi River flooding, or a river in Bombay, India, or something. And
Yeah, so you'll,
it's more effective to have a picture of Morgan Creek, I think, because people know where that is. And
yeah.
it affects them more than
And
Mississippi.
we've had some dillies even down by Carborough Plaza,
Oh, yeah.
that James Street area. Yeah, we've had some in Bowling Forest. There's been, with one of those horrible rainstorms.
Right.
Yeah. Now that would be so good, and to show it in some of the schools.
Yeah, I volunteer a couple days a week at Frank Porter Graham, helping fourth graders with math. I found my niche. I can do fourth grade math.
Hey, good for you.
And I did that, started about the middle of the year last year, and once I get back there in the fall, I hope to find a science teacher and see if we can't get them to let me do something. I did contact the PTA, but I didn't hear anything back from them, at least not yet, so.
Well, good for you. And Jerry, your wife has been a teacher in middle school?
High school. High school.
High school. High school.
She had about a 30-year career in 7 through 12 in a couple
Awesome.
different school districts.
Well, I heard the 7th and I was thinking that's middle, but things have changed since I was in school. And Emily also is a retired teacher, and she volunteers as a reading teacher in her old school. Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, my son still volunteers at his old school. I mean, I think teachers, they still love teaching, and being a volunteer is so much more fun than having all the paperwork. And
Yeah, I'm sure of that.
you have the joy of teaching without the hassle part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I bet you do get a kick out of that. So your grandchildren go to Frank Porter?
They do, yes.
Yeah, that's right.
They'll be in, fourth grade and second grade this year.
Those are delightful ages, So that you could use then some volunteers with your group to help make these contacts, I guess.
Oh, sure,
And
yeah.
get some
Never turn away
speaking.
help.
Yeah, get some speaking engagements.
Right,
Yeah, well, I'll definitely try to find out about WILF and also the NAACP, might be interested. They've been real big on an environmental justice situation with the Rogers Road community.
oh, yes,
And that's been one of their big things, and that's been another one with the poor community
Right.
having a landfill. And now there's poor communities with the coal ash. And in fact, I guess you've heard about, like, by our police station, they have
I
found
have,
out in
yes.
recent years.
yeah, the two ladies from your group who came to my demonstration a couple of times, I can't remember their names, but they made me aware of that issue. I didn't know about that before.
Yeah,
Lib and Margaret?
probably
Lib-
at least
Lib and Margaret? Does
Um,
that ring a bell?
Was one of them Sheraton or something like that? Do you have a Sheraton or a?
No, but it could be an allied group too. But, yeah, So, so are there any other volunteer things that you're doing besides teaching and
Well,
changing where you live to get them to be more environmentally conscious and standing out there protesting the coal cars?
I'm the neighborhood coordinator for Porch too, in my building, so I collect stuff once a month and take it over to St. Thomas More Church. And then usually Wednesdays I go to the Aquatic Center and help people distribute it, so. Yeah, it's enough to keeps me off the street and out of the bars, like my mother used to say.
Bars. So, for some people who don't know, and as I say, there's a big turnover of the population here with being a lot of academics and students, want to tell us what Porch does.
Well, Porch has a monthly food drive, and they give the food that's collected to about, I think, 700 families a year. And they give some to food pantries, and they give some to families. People come by. I go Wednesday mornings to the Aquatic Center up on, I can't remember the name of the street, off Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
Homestead.
Homestead, that's correct. And there's at least one other, I know there's a Monday night distribution as well. So people come and get food that need it. The place where I go, there's more than half of the people, and I think we do 150 families roughly up there are Karen people who are new to Chapel Hill, my understanding. And we try to provide, in their case, food that they recognize in some cases. You know, there's some fresh vegetables and things that they would have had at home. There's also a couple of Muslim families that come and they get halal food baskets, so they try to be as responsive as they can. The three ladies who started that organization, in my opinion, should all be nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah.
They're pretty special.
I'm trying to, how is Porch different from the Interfaith Council?
I think they have a similar mission.
I think they have a similar mission.
Now,
But
the Interfaith Council, if I'm correct, they cook food at the,
they,
right?
they provide lunches and dinners
right,
during the week.
okay,
And I'm not sure what they do something on the weekend, maybe just the dinner and not the lunch. But I know they also provide bags of food, and but people have to go there, I think, to
Okay.
pick it up. And you have to fill out an application that your income is within a
right.
certain amount.
Yeah, they do that with Porch too. I'm
And
sure.
so with Porch though, where people go to certain pickup places.
Right.
Yeah, I thought that was maybe more with the school-age kids with Porch.
Well, are you thinking of Table? Because Table has a backpack program.
They have the
Yeah.
backpack program, yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't know whether there was a connection still with the families that have school age, but that's interesting. But whatever, these are all have a similar mission, feeding people.
Right, yeah, there's plenty of need for it apparently in the area. I think of this place as a pretty well-off area, but
yeah.
I think that Table says that 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 kids in the.
1 in 4 kids.
1 in 4.
1 in 4 is food insufficient, and I think, unfortunately, our community has gotten more and more. There are people who are put, maybe not wealthy, but very, very comfortable.
Right.
And there's more and more,
Yeah,
disparity than those who are really struggling, who are working, maybe minimum wage jobs but even those who have jobs that make a little bit more, it's gotten to be a very expensive area.
yeah,
And that means food is more expensive here than it might be in another community. And rents are higher, rents have
Right.
gotten ridiculous here. So, yeah, I think the gap between the rich and the poor has just really grown around here. And we
As
have
in
a
the
lot
rest
of
of the
rural
country.
places.
yeah.
Orange County, people forget, is still very rural in many respects. So, what is that? Is that my phone?
Fortunately, it's not mine. Let's put it on.
I had it turned off, but it still is moaning. So, So you're doing a lot of volunteer stuff.
Right.
I'm glad you came to our community.
Well, so am I. We were
Yeah.
very happy here.
Yeah,
It's been very welcoming.
yeah, it's very friendly. So you came here from Buffalo,
We came from the Syracuse area.
from Syracuse
Yeah,
area?
we lived there. We have been married almost 50 years, and we moved to from Buffalo. We met in college in Buffalo and moved to the Syracuse area, and we both worked there our whole working lives.
Was your work connected with science and math?
No, for half of my working life, I had a school photography business. And
Okay.
I sold that when I was 46, and then I became a certified financial planner for 8 or 9 years. And then I got certified to teach high school and only substitute taught. I did that 4 or 5 years, and then I became adjunct instructor at SUNY Oswego and taught marketing classes. So I have what you call varied background or checkered past, depending which way you want to look at it.
Well, yeah, but so you that's really cool. So you really kept keeping your motivation
Yeah.
going. If something got a little boring or not as satisfying as it had been, you were able to make that leap into another kind of career.
What you're trying to say is I have a short attention span. Yes, you're right.
Do you really? I wasn't trying to say that at all.
No, I'm kidding.
No, one of my friends was married to somebody who, I think when he was 60, he became a doctor
Oh, wow.
and became a physician's
Oh,
assistant.
cool, yeah.
Yeah, and he'd been a diplomat, and then he became he was a scientist, and then went from science into medicine.
Right.
So, yeah, people think of our careers differently, I think, or at least a lot of people do, not everybody. That if it's not satisfying, there's something else to do and use your talents. And
Yeah, it's no perfect job.
no,
So,
there's not. There's
They all
not.
have their good points and bad points.
So how did you like teaching? You must have liked it if you're not doing volunteer.
I did.
schools.
The adjunct instructor was the most fun that I ever had. Didn't have much responsibility as an adjunct. You just would show up, and nobody ever asked me what I was teaching or seemed to care. I was never observed or anything like that.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not.
What you were teaching marketing?
Marketing and then a sales course that I developed and taught online and
But
taught
you
on
had to mark
campus.
papers.
Yes, I did, but I had
So
almost all of them were multiple choice, and they have a machine that you just put them through. So I kept my working to a minimum. I told war stories in class all the time.
So you had a good time with it.
I did, yes.
Yeah, and they accepted your marks that you gave for people, so
Yes,
they must
yeah.
have decided you were doing okay.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So, okay, back to, we just have a few more minutes. Back to one of your main passions right now, having gone to Al Gore's conference on the climate. Is there some way people could reach you if they wanted to
Well,
find
sure.
out more about?
Sure, my email address is Richards, that's RICHARDS, dot
Okay.
Gary, 057
Gary 057
@gmail.
@gmail. So they could do that if they wanted to find out
Right.
more about Al Gore, how to get in touch with Al Gore to get
Right.
some. Is he going to do like follow-up training, or can you get in contact if you say you run into a problem? Do they have like where you can get in touch for
They do. They have
support?
a website that's called a Presenters Works website, so you can go to that and ask other people questions, which I did before I came on the show. Then I didn't follow any of their recommendations. They said I should give you a list of things so that I would know what you were going to ask me ahead of time, but I didn't do that.
Yeah.
There's also a website for the Climate Reality Project Orange County, if people want to look at that. Excuse me, not a website, a Facebook page.
So
Excuse me.
just go to Climate Reality
Climate Reality Orange County, North Carolina,
Orange
Facebook
County.
page.
Okay.
And we have meetings the first Saturday of every month at the library Chapel Hill Library.
Oh,
There won't be one in August, but starting again in September there will be.
and what's it in the morning?
It's
Afternoon?
usually at 10:30.
10:30.
10:30 to noon it goes about. At
Okay.
the Chapel Hill
So
Library.
that's the Climate Reality.
Right,
First Saturday of the month and starting in September.
right.
Okay, so now I know how to get, is there anything you wanted to mention that I forgot to bring up or didn't think to bring up that,
Well, if people want to get involved, of course, they are welcome to come and join us at the demonstrations on Friday mornings, 8 to 10 in front of the coal plant on Cameron. But they could join any one of the many organizations that are
Yeah.
here. They can write letters to the editor, the News and Observer if they want to. They can contact their local political people. In both Chapel Hill and Carborough this fall, there's going to be elections for new council members and aldermen, so they can talk to them and make it known that they feel it's important that this coal plant get closed, if they feel that way.
mhm.
So that's what I would suggest.
So that these are things that people can do, and
Right.
then they also can get in touch with you at richard.gary057@gmail.
That's correct.
And then if they wanna go to further information, besides going every Friday morning, and it will get cooler,
Right.
we know it will at some point, they can go Friday mornings from 8 to 10, and where do they go exactly, right on Cameron Avenue
Yeah,
there?
right where Cameron and Graham come together is where the entrance to the plant is, and that's where we've been standing. And in
Okay,
terms of parking your car, you're right, there isn't an easy place to park. If you wanted to come, you would probably be better off parking on Franklin Street if you can, and walking
And
that one
walking.
block down.
and as the weather gets cooler, that would be a nice walk,
Right.
yeah, they'd be able to do that. And then if they wanna get started getting to know people and be part of it, they can go the first Saturday starting in September, and then it'll be the first Saturday each month at Chapel Hill Library, 10:30
Right, right.
to noon. Well, we so appreciate you coming and getting to hear all that you're doing, and good luck with where you live. It
Thank you.
sounds like they're being receptive.
They
to
are,
it.
yeah, I think.
Let me know how the composting goes. Maybe I'll get my courage up where I live
Okay.
to push a little bit more.
Well,
Yeah.
thanks for having me. I appreciate
Yeah,
it very much.
Thank you so much.